'Cause I'm yours to keep if you want to.
Boom. We're rolling. Alrighty, sir. Thank you for coming in to do this.
Of course. It's been too long.
Yeah, man. It's been crazy because as of last night, Tay was just like, man, Matt hasn't smoked in 2 months. And I was like, no fucking way.
Right.
So
right.
what's been going on in that world, man?
Oh, man, growing up.
Yeah.
Just, trying to change some shit.
Yeah.
And
That's good, man.
That was one of them.
Yeah. That's big. That's
Yeah.
huge. It's got to feel great. 2 months deep.
Bro, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so much more productive, so much more focused. I get, much better sleep.
Yeah.
People are so surprised when I tell them that because they're like, oh, I thought weed makes you sleepy. I'm like, yeah, but you'll stay up all night smoking.
Yeah.
And then you'll fall asleep at 2 or 3 in the morning. And then it's just it's still, you wake up half drowsy still, cloudy. It's like, I don't have any of that.
I'm in the same boat. And that's funny because I know a lot of people making that transition to not be smoking anymore.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually inspired some people. Like literally one of my boys in Miami hit me today and he was like, I'm about to smoke this last pack and I'm done. And so I'm just like, do it.
Yeah.
You'll be so surprised at the changes.
For sure.
Because I would have never thought, if you would have told me, years ago, yo, you're going to quit smoking and everything is going to change for you, I would have been like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But no, it's really amazing.
It's hard to realize that when you've been smoking for your whole life.
Oh, yeah.
And around the clock. And
right.
you're just like, oh, shit.
And
this
then,
makes a huge difference.
Then, how much money I'm saving even.
Yeah.
To where it's just I was spending thousands a month.
Yeah.
And it's just I can look at my account and I got money all the time now. So that's pretty amazing too, outside of the real benefits of it. But yeah, it's been dope. I'm not even I have no desire to even smoke. I can be around it. It's not like I'm running from it. It's just no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I like where I'm at.
Awesome, man. I love to hear that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, let's just jump in from the very beginning. So what's your full name?
Matthew Mcneal.
Are you named after anybody?
Nope.
Okay, interesting.
I didn't even have a name for 24 hours.
Yeah?
So my mom thought I was going to be a girl, and she had a name picked out. And then when I came, it was the 80s. You couldn't do the ultrasound to figure out what it's going to be, right? So when I was a boy, my mom looked at my dad and was like, you got a name? And he was like, no. So so my full name is Matthew David Mcneal. And he literally opened the Bible up to the book of Matthew, and that's how I got.
Wow. That's the best answer I've heard so far.
That's how I was fucking named.
Where were you born?
I was born here in L.A.
Okay.
Yep.
And what was it like growing up here?
It was great. I loved growing up in L.A. I grew up in the Crenshaw district.
Okay.
But I'm also a private school kid.
Okay.
So I had kind of the best of both worlds.
Sure.
To where it was I grew up learning, being street smart and having to learn that side of it growing up in the Crenshaw district, but then also having friends that lived in Bel Air.
Yeah.
And those were the friends I would go spend the night at their house. So it was oh shit, this is totally different from the way I live.
Yeah.
And it inspired me to want more for myself and for my family eventually.
Yeah.
So I think it was amazing. And
That's cool.
I love growing up in LA because it's such a diverse place. Growing up, I always had friends of different nationalities and different races and different religions. So I think that's amazing. Not to knock anybody that's grown up in the South or to say it's any better, but I have friends from the South where they were yeah, my friends were either black or white.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
I think it's amazing to have friends to where it was I had Asian friends, I had Hispanic friends, I had, all kinds of friends.
Yeah. Dude, that is awesome. I didn't really think about that because I think about growing up in LA as a somewhat negative thing. I think about if I had kids here, I would not want to have kids here. But I grew up in Utah and it's as white as it gets.
Right.
It was one black kid in my high school.
Wow.
It's really
wow.
as white as it gets.
Right.
There was a lot of Mexicans though. There was more Mexicans in Park City. There was, at least when I was growing up, there was more Mexicans than there were white people in the city.
I didn't know that.
And it's a 7,000 person population in
Right.
Park City, or it was when I was there in early 90s.
Right.
But I never really thought about that. What kind of stuff were you into when you were
Sports.
little? Even little?
Sports.
Yeah.
I loved sports. It was I had, it was just a way to have even more friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had teammates.
Sure.
So I definitely I've been into sports since I can remember. My dad was like a huge Dodgers fan, so going to games as a kid, like one of the pictures I have of my dad and me as a kid is like him holding me on his lap at a Dodger game.
Nice.
So literally it's like the main thing for me. It was like sports. Even before music, it was like I was complete sports fanatic.
Would you play baseball?
Baseball and basketball.
Okay.
Baseball and basketball. Those were like the two sports I was good at. I tell people all the time I hate doing things I'm not good at.
Yeah.
So if I can't like naturally pick the shit up, I'm not gonna end up fucking with it.
No work.
No, I'm not gonna practice to
Yeah.
get like a friend of mine invited me to go bowling the other night, and I was like, no, like I suck at bowling.
Oh, I love
Like,
bowling, man.
Yeah, I mean if you're good at it,
Yeah.
it's fun. But
Yeah.
like I'm not about to watch me throw 5 gutter balls in a row. Like,
Yeah, it's a tough one if you're not like actually like my dad taught me how to bowl because he used to love it. Like he
Gotcha.
had a bowling ball and shit when he passed. Like my friend still has his bowling ball. It's like,
Right.
but it's just like if you don't get the education on that, it's miserable.
Yeah,
Learning.
completely miserable. Like as a grown man, I probably need bumpers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, nah.
Yeah, well, I get that. Did you ever consider playing sports professionally?
Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
That was the whole goal until I got to I was like 17 and I realized that wasn't going to pay for me to go to college.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, you got to figure something else out. And music was it after that.
What was your like first job?
First job was at a library.
Okay. I would not have guessed that.
I was a computer nerd growing up. Like
Cool.
I was one of the first kids on my block that had a computer.
Okay.
So kids would come over to my house and we would go on the internet, all kind of stupid shit.
Sure.
AOL back then.
Yeah. Chat rooms, baby.
Yeah, all of that. And then I got a job my senior year of high school running the computer lab at a public library on La Brea and Jefferson,
Cool.
the Baldwin Hills branch.
Awesome.
Yeah. I did that for like 4 months. And then senior ditch day came and they were like, oh, we're going to the beach. And I literally called my job and was like, yeah, I'm not coming in today. And then I thought about it while I was on the phone and I was like, I'm not coming back ever. Like, I'm done. Like, school's over with.
Nice.
I'm done.
Yeah, that's a good way to exit your first job.
Right.
After that, what was your next job?
Next job, kind of along the same lines. My mom worked at USC, and she got me a job over the summer between going into my freshman year of college at the USC bookstore.
Okay.
So
Computers as well? Or
No,
just-
I was
okay,
literally
in the
stocking
bookstore.
books in
Okay.
the bookstore, like working in the back.
Yeah. How long did that last?
Just the summer.
Okay.
It was just something to do for the summer to get some money before I went off to college.
And where'd you go to college?
St. John's.
How was that?
It was great. It was like living in New York, so it was a dream for me because I grew up such a fan of like East Coast rap. So it was just like, okay. And me knowing I wanted to get into music, if I felt like that's where the music industry was based at the time.
Sure.
Because of, it was the Rockefeller era, the G Unit era, Dipset, all of that shit. So it was like, yeah, I want to go to New York. I want to experience that. And I had made a bunch of friends online via this message board called Nike Talk, and they were all in New York or on the East Coast. So
Sure.
I was just like, I want to
Can't
go
wait.
there. Yeah.
Cool. What'd you study in school?
I was a marketing major.
Okay. What was learning from what perspective, I guess? Marketing just in general?
Yeah, like I mean, I didn't even get past my freshman year to really get into it.
Oh, okay.
I think the only marketing class I took was just like, it was really like a psychology class, but it was just like, what do people think about when they do advertisement and shit like that?
Yeah.
But I was basically doing like mostly like core classes and shit, micro and macroeconomics and all of that stupid shit.
Yeah.
But my whole goal going to college wasn't to graduate. Like I was like, I'm gonna go get a job at a record label and I'm gonna quit this shit.
How'd that go?
I didn't get a job, but I did get kicked out of school because school was not my focus. Like
Yeah.
it was something clicked one day where I was like, I don't want to go to school. I probably got drunk the night before. I was like, I don't want to go to class. And I thought about it and I was like, nobody's going to call my mom if I don't go to class. It's not like
Yeah.
high school where it's like,
Yeah.
Matthew
Somebody's-
missed third period. We
Yeah.
don't know where he was. It was just like, I can miss.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I showed up for a midterm because me and my roommate actually had the same class. He took it earlier than me. So I was like, Nick, give me the answers to the test. And I'm going to go in and just take the midterm. I walked in, the teacher's walking around giving the professor at the time is walking around giving all the tests out. And he looks at me and goes, I've never seen you in my class before. So you're either taking the test for somebody else or you've never been to my class and you're going to fail anyway. And literally wouldn't let me take my midterm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Got a fucking, he was like, you have a W, a withdrawal.
Oh, yeah,
For not being there for attendance and shit.
Yeah. Well, shit,
I
that's a way to exit.
I would be ashamed to tell you what my GPA was in college.
I won't ask. So where'd the road go after that?
After my freshman year of getting kicked out, I somehow convinced my parents to let me stay in New York.
Cool.
So for a year, I went to like Queensborough Community College because I was like under the guise of I'm going to go back, get my grades up, and go back to St. John's.
Okay.
That didn't happen because I was living off campus with friends of mine that still went to St. John's, but it was just like I'm not going to class still.
Yeah.
Not really have no reason to go to fucking class.
Sure.
So after that, I enrolled in recording school in New York at SAE. I did that for a year. I did finish that. So I finished that, and then nobody in New York was hiring. Like studios were closing. Like Sony had closed by that time, which was like the big studio in New York. Labels really weren't hiring, and for you to be an intern, you had to get college credit, which I couldn't get because I wasn't in college.
I fucking hated that, man. When I first moved here and I was trying to intern, I eventually got to intern at Interscope, but it was really only because of like a family friend, like the one person I knew that had any form of musical relationships was just like, take this kid.
Got you.
You know, but it was literally like the roadblock was always like, oh, I'm not going to college.
Right.
I don't have a way to get credit for this. Like,
right.
Can I volunteer here? Like, just please let me be here.
I bring donuts or some shit. Nah, completely. So yeah, that led me to come back to LA, and a friend of mine had interned in high school for a guy who worked for Capitol Records.
Okay.
So she was like, you need to go meet this guy. Actually, it's funny enough, he like texted me earlier today. I need to call him when I leave here. But he was like, I got a friend of mine that runs a studio, and it was actually Will Smith's studio called the Boom Boom Room in Burbank.
Sure.
And that was my first like music industry job, was being an assistant and a runner there, getting Rodney Jerkins and Tim and Bob food.
I was going to say that must have been a crazy era to plug into.
Yeah, it was.
At that room.
And I mean, it was like probably like 2007.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was wild to just get thrown into it and just being like, I'm in the studio with legends.
Yeah.
Especially because it's Will's studio and they're all like kind of friends of his. So,
sure.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Cool. How long did you do that?
2 years.
Oh shit! So it was a good run.
Like 2-3 years actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you looking to at the time, like, were you looking at progressing from like the assistant runner position? Like, was engineering or producing ever a part of the goals for you, or it was just really being in the creative environment for the experience?
It was really being part of the creative environment. I mean, I wish I could make beats because then my life would be a lot simpler. But I knew that like I just didn't have the wherewithal. I just felt like I was like even too old to learn, which is probably the dumbest thing I could have thought. But I just took that to say where it was just like, well, I can start to manage guys and I can figure out the business side of this.
Sure.
Because my relationships were always strong and I was always like a music guy. So that's kind of where it led me to, where it was just like, I just want to start managing producers and learn how to be an A&R, really. Those were the two goals. Like when I was 17, once I figured out I wasn't playing college basketball or baseball, I figured out I wanted to be an A&R.
Amazing. What was that like transition from Boom Boom Room into first clients? And
so I got my first client when I was 20.
Okay.
21. I got my first client, actually. His name was Jimi Kendrix. He was producer from New York. He had produced a lot for Murder Inc.
Okay.
He did a record on the Blueprint 2 for Jay-Z. And right when I started managing him, he had did a record for G-Unit called I Like the Way She Do It.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's nuts
it was
to be
easy.
managing somebody who has a fucking hit
Right.
out the gate.
Right. So it was easy to be like, oh, okay, I'm managing this guy. And I met him outside of a like producer showcase that a friend of mine, Jay Hatch, used to do. And we were just chopping it up outside. I told him, where I worked in LA. And he was like, yo, you should manage me. And I was just like, okay.
Damn. Great way to start.
Let's figure this out. Yeah. And it didn't even last long. Like, Jimmy had a bunch of life stuff going on that kind of like put a pause on his career for a minute. So for me, it was like, it was very short lived, but it was still a great learning experience as far as like getting my feet wet.
And it's also a life experience in that that's how a lot of the management shit goes is you're like, oh, this is going to be sweet. We got this great ride coming. Right. It's about to be awesome. Your career's about to be amazing. And then it literally is just like, oh,
over.
Wait. Yeah.
Find a new client, buddy. But no, it was great. Jimmy's amazing. I haven't talked to him in years, but he was a great guy. He always had good energy when I went to New York to hang out with him and to run around and take meetings and stuff like that. And it led me to meet a lot of people because, like I took my first meeting with Lenny S. as his manager. And, me and Lenny are still good to this day. So it was definitely a great learning experience. Actually, my first placement I got for Jimmy was on one of I call him a mentor because he definitely gave me a lot of advice, was Heavy D's reggae album, Vibes.
Wow, crazy.
And it was funny because Hev was in the studio recording this album, and he was like, Matt, I'm going to get nominated for a Grammy, so if you got some beats, you need to give them to me. And I'm like, how do you know you're going to get nominated for a Grammy? Lo and behold, that album got nominated for a Grammy.
Wow.
So that was my first placement that I got as a manager, just chopping beats for somebody.
Dog, that's crazy.
Right.
What a crazy start.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I got a fast start.
Yeah. So were you just learning as far as like the actual business side of this goes? Are you learning on the fly? Is this something that like you've already taken mentors in, or are you studying like, the music business is complicated as fuck. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're first getting started, is really like, oh, publishing is what and masters are what. And,
right.
Like what was that initial, especially getting into, fuck, those contracts are terrible.
Yeah, no, it's and I mean, they look like alien language when you read them for the first time.
Yeah.
But for me, like I said, I kind of knew what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So I was a person, I don't read a lot, but I'll read things that I'm interested in. So I would buy Donald Passman's book every year.
Of course. When
I was a kid, just thinking like, oh, I got to know what's going on. I got to know this shit. And it's funny how much I actually retained from some of that. Not even thinking about it at the time. I would love to say that I did learn on the fly, but some of it was like kind of premeditated in terms of like, I was reading all the time to try and figure stuff out. I like to think I'm a pretty smart person. So, it was kind of easy for me to grasp in that sense. But yeah, I mean, it's still a ride. It's still, I'd still learn new shit every month.
Yeah.
To where it's just like, this is a constantly changing industry. Like,
totally.
Fucking TikTok is distributing music now. So
yeah.
It's just like, now I got to figure that part out and how that's going to work. So, it's just one of those things to where like you have to be ready to constantly evolve with this shit because the business is always changing. Like
100%.
Even when I first started, like with my real first industry job, like it was CDs. And now my car doesn't even have a CD player.
Yeah.
My laptop doesn't have a CD player.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's constantly evolving and constantly trying to stay ahead of the curve so you know what's coming.
Yeah, 100%. So when you were managing Jimmy, so that basically took a pause, and then are you looking for other people? Is it just naturally gravitating to you? What's like the next clients that came in?
After Jimmy, I kind of stopped for a minute. And I was just moving around the industry trying to network and meet people.
Were you back living in LA or were you still living East Coast?
So I was back in LA.
Okay.
When I started the Boom Room after I left, I just stayed here.
Came back.
So I actually had met Hit Boy and Chase, and I started just running around with them. Like Hit Boy invited me to the studio one day, and he was like, "Come listen to the shit that we're doing." And when I went to the studio, I ran into Stacey Barth, and Stacey is somebody I actually went to college with.
Wow.
She went to St. John's as well. So I was like, "Stacey, what are you doing here?" and she had started songwriting and singing and becoming an artist in her own right. So I wasn't managing Hit Boy and Chase. So I could never, like, they were already on to me.
Yeah.
Like, they were already signed to Polo. They had DJ managing them, who at the time, he's Jimmy's nephew. So he was like running Interscope basically. And I was like, I can't manage you guys, but I'll be the brand manager for Surf Club. So if anybody wants to come to us for anything outside of like Hit Boy and Chase producer world, I can try and figure it out. And Chase actually started like living with me, and we put our first couple of like artists on Surf Club's like mixtapes out literally on my couch.
No way.
To where it was just like, bro, we're just gonna put these songs together, get some cover art, and post a link on Zshare. So like,
oh, shit.
That was literally like kind of the start of like, I guess like Suedo being an executive. And then from that relationship, I had got hired by Ethiopia at UMPG at the time. And I was a publisher at 24.
Damn, man.
Right.
That's amazing. What was that like, getting into that world, especially at that age?
Oh man, I never imagined being a publisher. Like, I didn't even know what a publisher was or did. I knew what a publishing deal was,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what the actual publisher's job was, other than to just sign people, right?
Sure.
So it was definitely like I said, it was like I started fast and everything just kept getting almost faster.
Sounds like it.
So it was amazing though, because I got to really learn the business.
Yeah.
Because, that's really learning the money side of everything, not just being an A&R and being in the studio all day. Like, my job as a publisher, as much as I was in the studio all the fucking time, there was more to it. Like, I was leaving the studio at 3 a.m. and I'd have to be in a staff meeting at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And our staff meeting isn't like just, oh, we're playing music. Like, sometimes it's going through charts and seeing who's unsigned and then trying to go reach out to that person. So it caught me up to the business side very fast to try to figure out, what publishers do and how to be a good publisher. And it's completely different from being a record label A&R and like making albums. But I loved it because it kind of went hand in hand with managing producers. Because as a publisher, you're also trying to get your writers to work on projects and submitting songs and sending demos and beats to A&Rs and managers. And that's something I was already kind of good at from working with producers. And, I had started doing it for Chase. I started managing Chase as like individually outside of him and Hit Boy. So it was kind of like, okay, bet, like this is kind of easy.
Yeah.
And it made it even easier because Hit Boy and Chase were also signed to UMPG because that's how I met Ethiopia. So it made it kind of easy for that to happen.
Dude, that's amazing how many like just stars aligned throughout this whole journey so far.
For sure.
So you get there and is Chase the first client as far as a publishing client as well?
Well, he was already there. He had signed a publishing deal.
So he was already there as the group. It wasn't separate.
Right.
Okay.
So the first person I signed to publishing was actually Arab Music.
Wow. What year was that? Roughly.
Whatever year he did Coachella. So it might have been like 2010 or 2011.
Damn. So right in the...
It took me a whole year before I signed anything. Like I distinctly remember one point in time, I went into Ethiopia's office one day and literally like broke down crying because I was just like, I can't sign anything. Like, I don't know if you hired the right person. And she was like, no, I know I hired the right person because you care. Like, and it's just like, it's going to take time. You got to figure this shit out. And then there was a day when our CEO had left the company. And so the head of the creative team, this guy, Tom Sturgis, he just came in my office and was like, what do you need to sign somebody? Because we can't make it look like we're going to be, flat for a while because David Renzer left. And I was like, I need an extra $50,000 to sign Arab Music. And he was like, done. Go get that shit done.
Wow.
Signed Arab, and yeah, that was my first signing.
So what's the process like, or what was the process like? And if you can remember back to like, I guess what you were thinking, like in evaluating somebody you want to sign, is it really just start to pencil out like mathematically where you're saying, okay, I'm giving this person X amount of dollars. We expect this in this quick of a return, or
that comes second for me.
Yeah.
For me, I got to be a fan first.
Totally.
Like the reason I signed A-Rab is because me and Chase were literally riding around in my car that summer listening to Cameron and Vado's mixtapes that A-Rab had produced, like playing them shits back to back all the time. And I was just like, bro, I got to sign this kid.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had introduced me to his manager and New York legend Duke the God. And when I met Duke, he was just like, yo, I've been waiting for somebody to hit me up to do a pub deal for A-Rab. And then I got into like, you know, the number side of it. But I don't even think of that. Even now as a publisher, I don't think of like, what's it going to take? I got to be a fan first. I'll figure all of that shit out later and I'll make it make sense later.
Awesome, man.
But yeah, I got to be a fan first. It all starts with creative for me.
Yeah.
I'm a music guy. I'm not like a numbers guy or I'm probably not even the best relationship guy, but I'm literally a music guy. If I fuck with your music, I'm going to find a way to figure it out.
Yeah. Amazing, man. So you're working with him, and then where do things go?
So after that, I got on kind of a run because I got used to it, and I figured out how to sign people. So after that, I signed Cardiac, who I still manage to this day.
Wow, I had no idea that you signed him back then.
Yeah, signed him way back then. And that's a funny story too, because I had met Cardiac kind of the same way I met Jimmy. He won a beat battle in New York that, again, my friend Jay Hatch. My friend Jay Hatch used to have these producer conferences. So he would always ask me to come speak or be a judge or like a beat battle or whatever. And funny, Jimmy was actually supposed to be judging and didn't make it. So I'm just there hanging out one day. And he's like, yo, I need you to judge this beat battle because Jimmy's not here. And I was like, okay. So I go and do that. And Cardiac ends up winning. And the prize was you got to go meet an A&R at Bad Boy, who was a friend of mine, this guy named Skid. So Skid hits me and he's like, yo, I got to meet with this kid. You want to sit in on it? So I'm like, sure. I'm the one who kind of picked him. So fuck it, I'll sit in on it. So Cardiac comes, he's playing Skid a bunch of beats. And I always say I kind of fucked the meeting up for him because Cardiac was playing a lot of hard East Coast rap shit. And Puff was like in the middle of doing press play. Very polar opposite, right? Mm-hmm. Like Puff was in his experimental stage at that point. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, bro, Skid don't want none of this shit you playing him. Like, and I literally told him, I was like, you got to go find this guy named Tony G. Tony was one of the A&Rs at G Unit at the time. And I knew that, I didn't even know Tony, but I knew that he used to have these things on Ustream where he would post his email and he would let people send in beats and he would just like critique the beats on Ustream. So he ends up finding Tony. Like we stayed in contact. I don't even know how. I guess it was like text or some shit back then. And he ends up finding Tony, getting a couple placements with Lloyd Banks. And then his first big placement outside of like the mixtape stuff was Started Up. And it had like Kanye and Fab and all these people on it. And I was just like, literally the day that record came out, I called him and I was like, yeah, I'm a publisher. I want to sign you now. And yeah, I think we got that shit done in a couple of months.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of crazy. And like I said, to this day, he's probably my longest tenured client right now because of that. Because like I signed him to his publishing deal and I wasn't managing him. And then once I left Universal, I always stayed in contact with him, and then we started working together after that.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah. And I feel like especially now, that dude's like flying.
Multiple number ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's out of this world now.
Crazy. Okay, so you pick him up. And then?
Then Big Sean.
Nice. Right at the beginning of his shit.
Yeah, literally first album. I had met Sean. I met Sean at some sessions with No ID at Henson.
Okay.
And this was like my first time meeting him. Kicked it off. He was cool. And then like they went to Hawaii to work with Kanye. So I don't see him for a while. And then...
Was that 808s era? Right around that? Was that... Or they were even before that?
Probably 808s or after.
Okay.
So he goes... Like this is like right after he had gotten signed. So he goes to Hawaii to work with Kanye for a few months. Then he comes back to L.A., and then him and No ID start working on their album. And I had met No ID with Cole at the time. Cole had came out. This is after Cole had gotten signed as well. So Cole had came out to work with No ID for a couple of weeks. And as we hit it off as well. And then when Sean started working on his first album, I was just there every day. Like literally every day. Because I would leave Universal and drive straight to No ID studio and just hang out there all night until I got tired or too high and then just go home. And one day I watched him write my last in entirety. Like he wrote his verses, he wrote Chris Brown's hook, all Sean.
Yeah.
And that's when I looked and I'm like, this kid is a songwriter, not just a rapper. Like he can write for anybody.
Yeah.
And so one day me, No ID, and Sean are talking, and Sean is talking about publishing deals. And I'm like, I'm a publisher. And, Dion when I say Dion, that's No ID. He kind of was just like, yo, you should fuck with Matt. Like, he's been here through the entire time. Like, obviously somebody who cares about this shit. And as a publisher, I don't know, I can't speak for other publishers, but I don't know many publishers that sit through entire album processes.
Totally.
So, I think that we hit it off there. It took a while to get the deal done. And funny enough, one day I was with Brock eating at Golden State, and Diamond was doing a collab with Sean. So they had to like talk on the phone about like some of the creative or a pop-up or some shit they were trying to do. And I'm like, yo, is that Sean? And I'm like, give me the phone. So like we were in the middle of negotiating the deal, and I'm like, bro, what do I need to do to get this deal done? Because I'm like pulling teeth to try and get this shit done. He told me the amount he wanted, and he was like, bro, I just need to buy my mom a house. He was like, this is the amount I need. So I literally went into work the next day, and I was like, E is Ethiopia. And I was like, I need this much to sign Sean. She was like, okay, bet, let's do it. Done. So yeah.
That's amazing, man.
It's crazy. Like I kind of look back on things, like things happen so fast, you kind of like can't get stuck in the moments.
Yeah.
But when I do look back on them, it's really like, wow. Like,
it really is amazing.
Yeah. Like I thought about it not too long ago where I was like, I've kind of checked off a lot of the goals I had coming into the music industry already, and I'm not done yet. So I literally had to like remake a goal list.
Dude, I'm in that position right now.
Right.
I'm kind of floating in this ether of like, every now and again I'll just look upstairs and I'm like, I still don't really believe this is my studio.
Right.
And I don't really
it's
believe
been
all
yours
this
for 10 years.
Yeah, and I don't really believe all this stuff has happened. Like,
right.
This is fucking wild,
Yeah.
And it like when I first started the studio with Glenn, this place, like, it was like our goal to be like, oh, let's make like the LA hip hop studio.
Mm-hmm.
And by like 2014, I was like, dog, I feel like we did that.
Yeah, you worked with everybody in LA.
And then it literally just went like supersonic from there. And I was just like, this is well beyond anything, especially now. Like I look at this shit, I'm like, this is well beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I still look at it like that was like the warm-up chapter.
Yeah.
For
like sure.
Now the studio's at this place and I'm like, oh, watch me fuck this up now that I have the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole growth period was like just bootstrapping with whatever I possibly could.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, we're running.
Right.
But it still brings me back to that place of like, what's the next high level ambitious set of goals, So I 100% feel you. And it's crazy to hear even just those bits and pieces, which I'm sure is still up to like what, 2014, maybe 13. So anyway, back to you. Signing Big Sean and things progress.
Things progressed. And then after that, I got fired.
How'd you get fired?
I got fired just because I was young and dumb.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not the best relationship person. I can even say it, I had an ego at the time because I knew I was the youngest executive. When I first got my job at publishing at 24, I was legitimately the youngest executive in music that could say I had signing power. Say like there was no A&Rs at labels that were younger than me. There was definitely no publishing A&Rs that were younger than me. So like that kind of gave me a little bit of an ego.
And you're on like a fucking
epic
I'm doing
run.
a
bunch of shit. One of my really good friends that I went to college with is J. Cole, and he's building and rising at the same time. So every time he's here, I'm with him. So like, you know, I was feeling myself, and, you know, I needed a swift kick in the ass, and Ethiopia gave it to me one day, where it was just like, you know, it was my time. And I honestly thank her for that, because, you know, it brought me back to reality and made me kind of realize what I really needed to be doing. And, you know, back to even focusing a little bit more on, you know, building myself as an executive. And that's when I really just kind of like really turned up on the management side and started like really like finding more producers to manage and help. Like Tunji had introduced me to Quest while I was still at Universal.
Oh, okay.
I had picked up a couple of other producers that, you know, I had just met throughout my time. And then, yeah, I was doing that for like a solid 2 years, from like maybe 2013, 2014. And then Cole came out to LA to work on Forest Hills Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just there every day. Again, just like feeding him beats, just hanging out. This was his first like really extended time in LA for like months at a time, where he didn't go back east or anything. So I was just there, and during that time, I found the first artist I managed, and that was Kaz. So I found Kaz. He had the song Dreams. I literally found that right over there, sitting with Chase one day. Chase Infinite was actually playing the video on Smash, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And
wow,
just became a fan, reached out to him. And one night I was sitting with Cole, and he just had like writer's block, and was just like, man, I don't got it tonight. I'm about to go to sleep. And I was like, before you go to sleep, I want to play you something. And I played him Kaz's first video, Dreams. And I honestly didn't think Cole would be like, I want to sign the kid. I thought he'd be like, yeah, I want to meet him. Maybe I'll give him a verse or whatever, help him, you know, on his rise or whatever. Cole watches the video, and he's like, yo, I want to sign this kid. And I was just like, oh, shit. So, you know, from that, a couple of months later, Kaz gets signed. I think it was like July of that year. And then we were just off and running, figuring this Dreamville label shit out.
Yeah.
And trying to build that up.
Dude, that's another epic entry point time frame to
Amazing.
just hop in and ride the ride.
Yeah. I get lucky a lot. I'll be honest. I get lucky a lot.
I mean, that's you're in the right, but you got the right spirit for it. You know, like it really starts as, yes, I'm a fan of music, and you know, literally, you got obviously the instinct, because every single person you've named has been tremendously successful, and you've been identifying that very early on.
Yeah.
What was the decision in like managing an artist? Because from my seat, that's a fucking headache in comparison to managing a producer.
I mean, I never wanted to manage artists because I knew what that entailed. I had been around it to see like, oh, managing artists is a fucking headache.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of felt I had to, because I introduced him to this situation, and these are my best friends that I have known since college now. And, you know, at that point it had been, you know, close to 10 years that I had known Cole and Eve and Adam and the rest of the guys at Dreamville. So it was just like, I kind of felt like I had to manage him, because it's like, I don't want to just walk him into this situation and be like, okay, my job's done, you know? And honestly, I needed some money.
Yeah.
So it was like, this kid's about to be going on tours and shows and shit. So like, why not be a part of this? And you know, even helping myself grow as a manager.
Sure.
Because like, you know, it's a different responsibility when it's like, okay, you know, producers just need opportunities. Like, to manage a producer is essentially easy. You know, doing the networking, doing the speaking for them, and just, you know, getting in front of people and, you know, giving them beats or setting up sessions. That's really, to me at least, is easy. But managing an artist is like, you're responsible for somebody's life, especially somebody like Kaz at that time. He was 20 years old.
Yeah.
Like, he had no idea of what the music industry entailed. So I really felt like it was almost my duty to kind of help him and his friends figure this shit out for a while. Like, I tell all of my clients this, that like, I don't plan on managing anybody for their entire life. If they want me to and I feel like I'm up to it, then I'm down for it. But like, I feel like my job as a manager is to educate you enough to get to a point where you can hopefully manage yourself, or get to a point where you're big enough to where you need somebody better.
Yeah.
Because I never look at myself as the best, even though people will tell me I'm one of the best. I never look at myself as that. I always feel like there's room for improvement. So I think for me, it was just like, yeah, let me just help him get started. And we did that for a couple of years. We put a couple of albums out, and then we parted our ways because I had other things I wanted to do now as well. Like I wanted to really help Dreamville as a label develop and develop the rest of the artists that we had been signing. And for him, I think he needed new management. He needed to get out of just like he only knew me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he needed to kind of move around himself and kind of develop his own relationships. And he's been doing a great job.
Dude, that's amazing. So you're now embedded in the Dreamville world, and what's like your role and function within that system as it's like just blasting off?
Yeah, I mean, my role with Cole has always kind of been the same. He doesn't really need a lot of help.
Sure.
Like, he can do most of this shit himself. He can produce. He obviously is an amazing rapper, one of the best. So my thing was always to just, how can I enhance? How can I bring things that he may not be aware of to the table? So like, I've legitimately placed a record on every Cole album, whether it was me sending him a beat, me making an introduction to a producer that ended up getting a placement on an album. There's not one album that I don't have one song on.
That's amazing.
So that kind of just always been there. And then it kind of just graduated into just like doing the A&R stuff for the label and helping these acts put their albums together. Obviously, being a manager, I knew the paperwork side of it in terms of like getting agreements done, making sure the splits are right, and all of the boring shit.
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, bet, I know I can do this. I know I can do the creative stuff.
The job nobody wants to do.
Right.
The paperwork and
right. So, it was just like, I knew at that point I had done enough to where it was just like, I can be an A&R for this label. And I think it even took a while to convince Eve and Cole of it. But it really finally happened when we did Revenge of the Dreamers 3. And we're essentially like running that whole camp for 10 days with hundreds of producers, dozens of artists in and out every day. And I remember the last day of the camp, Cole walked up to me and was like, yo, bro, you killed this shit. Like, we got to figure this shit out now. But I kind of was essentially playing that role unofficially for a while before that. To where it was just like, I was the guy, because I had been in the industry and working for so many people. Like, I was the guy people would come to where it was just like, oh, you work for Dreamville, you work with Cole. So I had the relationships already, so it made it a little bit easier. And then it was just like, yeah, let's figure it out. I mean, why not? Yeah.
Crazy, man. And how long did that kind of run for?
3 years.
Okay.
2-3 years.
I mean, that whole project was insane.
Yeah.
I remember being mad jealous of like learning like that whole session, that whole camp was happening.
Don't be, bro.
I know it was fucking crazy,
I got
but
30
still.
hours of sleep over 10 days.
Yeah, I mean,
talking about leaving the studio at 7 a.m., going to my hotel, and then waking up at 10 so I could be the first. So I'm the last person at the studio and the first person at the studio every day for 10 days.
Ugh.
I feel like I lost 5 years of my life
I'm sure
by not sleeping during that entire time.
Yeah, but look at all the people that were a part of that.
Oh, yeah. The benefit of it greatly outweighs that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? To be able to say we got 64 people Grammy nominated.
Yeah.
Because that's how many people were a part of the project. And to get
who knows
unsigned
how many
artists Grammy nominations.
Yeah.
Because there was people that weren't even supposed to be there that literally just ended up on the project because they were dope and they added something in the room and it was like, oh, we're going to keep that.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I
Yeah.
remember because I knew a lot of, like, Cam was there for a little while. There'd be
Yep.
people who would just be like, oh, man, my friend just called me, told me to come through and do this, and
Yeah.
I'm on this album. And
Oh, bro, trust me. Like, people who know me know that I definitely have, an asshole side, if I'm just being frankly about it. And there was people I'd be like, who the fuck is this? Like, who are these people in this room? Like, and then it was just like, okay, you're making amazing shit. Let me just leave it alone.
Yeah.
But there was definitely those moments for me where I'm just like, oh, this is a madhouse.
yeah.
I remember there was a point where it was like when we first or second night, I was like, oh, okay, things are kind of chill. I'm going to go see Drama and Cannon real quick and I'll come back in a few hours. And then my phone starts blowing up and they're like, Rick Ross is in the parking lot. Where are you? And I'm like, bro, I left. I told y'all I was leaving. And I'm like, fuck, I got to go back. And then, I walk in a room and Rick Ross, Wale, and T.I. are sitting on the couch. And I'm just like, oh, fuck. Why did I leave? And I think from that point on, I probably didn't leave ever again.
That's why you slept for 3 hours a night.
Because it was just like, yo, I don't know who's pulling up. One day it's going to be Swiss Beats. The next day is David Banner. And I'm just like, okay, this is insane.
Yeah. Dude, what a run.
Yeah, it was dope. I couldn't have like mapped that out any better, to be able to do that with friends that I went to college with, people that I knew, like, and had, like, intimate relationships with as friends.
Yeah.
To where it was just like, this is dope to be able to look up and be like, we're making history together. It was amazing.
For sure. And you're still managing what, like half a dozen different producers at the same time minimum?
Probably double that.
Yeah, a dozen people?
I'm definitely over 20.
Damn. At that point?
No, now.
Just now. Holy shit.
I'm over 20. At that point, it was probably about 8 or 9.
Okay.
At that point, but now it's up there. I got a whole company now,
Yeah.
whole management company. I got employees I pay.
Damn.
Everything.
Crazy,
Yeah.
man. That's amazing to see the progress, because it's been I don't know how many years it's been since we've caught up, even.
There's been a few,
especially with COVID.
Definitely
and shit.
pre-COVID, yeah,
it's
for sure.
Like, so it's just you blink and it's like, fuck. It's been like 4 years, 3 years since I've seen, maybe longer, or if it wasn't, it was just quickly on some.
Yeah.
I booked a studio for this person. I'm just gonna come and say what up and then skate. You know, so it's like, it's also why I love doing this, is because it's like, oh, nice. We get like a full blown. Just time to have a conversation without fucking distractions and people and sessions and blah, whatever. So it's cool, because I honestly really had no idea about. I knew bits and pieces, just knowing you and our conversations throughout time. But it's cool to see things laid out in this uniform path and just hear the wild fucking progression. It's
been a ride.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a ride, and it's crazy because it's still not over.
Oh yeah, dude, far from it. I feel like you're, if anything, in like the prime.
Yeah, I probably am.
Yeah.
I probably am. I'm like, okay, I'm really starting to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
And what I want to do next, and it's just like, wow, I still got some time left.
So I want to come back to that, because I kind of want to figure out what's now, but North Carolina, that whole camp happens, everything's going, and then...
No, that was in Atlanta.
Oh, that was in Atlanta?
Yeah, we were in Atlanta.
For some reason, I thought that was at his house.
No. We were at Tree Sound.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then, so that project wraps up. Grammy nomination. I think it definitely went gold. I don't know if it went platinum. Okay, yeah. So you're also getting all those people their first platinum.
It's the only plaque I own is Revenge of the Dreamers plaque.
No way.
I could have a room full of plaques, but...
Yeah.
I've never been that person. I'm not a trophy person. Like, I don't have
either.
any of my trophies from baseball or basketball as a kid. Like, but that one, it meant more than just that. So
of course.
Like, that's legitimately the only plaque I have. Probably won't be my only one ever.
Yeah, but that's a special one to have.
It's my first one, and it's still right now in 2022 the only plaque that I own.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. So you go through that, and... shit, dude, I feel like you got to be on top of the world, because that album, even though it didn't win a Grammy, who gives a shit? Like, that album was just such a special moment in time, you know? Like, it was a timestamp for... So it wasn't?
So to me, it won. Like,
okay.
Just getting nominated.
Okay. I thought
it's like, it's a fucking compilation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a compilation. You don't see compilations get nominated for Grammys much.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if the
really.
Rough Riders compilation got nominated. I don't know if, any of these other compilations that got released on majors got nominated, because it's just like, okay, you're putting stars with developing artists, you have maybe 1 or 2 singles that do well, but to see people really kind of gravitate towards it and fuck with that album, to me it won just by being nominated and just by getting that many people their first nominations.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that is amazing. Where do things go from there? So
from there, it's, back to figuring this Dreamville shit out and working with our younger artists and helping them develop and put their projects together. And that was, 2019 was doing a lot of that, doing Kaz stuff, JID, Earth Gang, Ari Lennox, putting a lot of their projects together and helping them with that however I could. And then 2020 came, and we had got our first studio in LA. We had started renting Can-Am, so it was
Sick.
like the old Death Row studio.
Yep.
So that was amazing, just to be able to be like, yeah, we got the old Death Row studio now.
Yeah.
And really just kind of like cemented us, and like, you know, like just dope to have our own space. You know
Totally.
what I mean? So we had that for about a year and a half, from like the end of 2019 going into 2020. Obviously, the world loses its mind and shuts down. And at that point, I was just like, again, like, okay, fuck. What am I going to do next? And a really good friend of mine that I had known from my days of being a publisher at Universal, Ashley Calhoun, who is like the head of creative at Pulse Publishing, calls me and she's like, yo, I need a consultant, somebody to just come in and help the hip hop and R&B team kind of move shit around. And I know you got, you know, all the Dreamville shit, all the producers you manage. And I was like, yeah, why not? I'll take that opportunity. And,
Yeah.
I've been a publisher before. So I consulted for a year. I really loved working with them. And then they offered me a full-time gig and going into 2021. And I left Dreamville the end of 2020 and took my publishing job. And that's where I'm at now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wild. I mean, that's also, I'm sure, just an amazing time to kind of make the pivot, because unfortunately, like I'm sure Dreamville is just like any other record label is kind of shut down and just stuck in the mud, because you can't really, not to say that nobody, like people are obviously creating, but it just like, because we lost the live music side of things, and that's really, I feel like, what is kind of centered around the record label promotion vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, like if you really want to do well, you got to have an album, you got to tour the album, you got to be playing live. Like
For sure.
every label, not obviously just Dreamville, just to me, from my perspective as a studio, I watched, oh yeah, we're really shutting down, like booking, we're not really making anything, we don't really know where this is going.
Right.
You know, so to be able to make that pivot in that kind of chaos.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest, like through 2020, I was getting 2 checks.
Yeah.
So, like, it was good for me personally. But yeah, I mean, you know, things had slowed down a little bit, but we were still able to stay active because we had our studio. So like, we still had a place for our artists to come,
of course,
record and work, because nobody could tell us no. They couldn't be like, oh, we're closed for COVID. Like,
of course,
we were open.
Yeah.
All of 2020.
Yeah.
Like,
Cooking.
people were working. Yeah.
Yeah. But it still kind of, I feel like, put a stall to like, what are we going to release? You know what I mean? Because I feel like everybody was looking at like, we don't know if this is going to.
Right.
And honestly, most releases didn't stick for shit throughout 2020, really. And it's still not really fully even back to me. I have this conversation a lot of like, what music's lasting like longer than a month?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I don't think that has to do with COVID. I think that has to do with the digital age we're in.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're getting 3,000 songs released every Friday.
Yeah.
So the competition is really like, I was telling somebody earlier today, actually, like the competition is leveled.
Yeah.
Like, because an independent artist can put out an album the same day as J. Cole.
Yeah.
Where it was like before, indie artists, it was just like, one, we don't even know if you're putting an album out or how it's being put out, because you're not getting space at Target. You're not getting space at Best Buy.
Yeah.
And now that those places, because, you know, we're selling CDs, now that those places don't exist and the music marketplace is Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon and all these places, it's kind of even the playing field. And it's also made music so digestible in such a quick time to where like everybody's like, well, what's new?
Yeah.
Like, I listened to all of this shit in the last 2 weeks. What's new?
Yeah.
So I think that's the real reason why at least music and albums aren't sticking right now, is just because of the digital age we're in. And you got to do more than just put out a couple of dope songs in order for people to have like, you know, real longevity.
Yeah.
Especially if you weren't able to establish yourself at the same time as the Kendricks, the Coles, the Drakes, the Shawns, to where it was just like, okay, bet you guys sold some CDs back in the day. You know what I mean? And it's crazy to say back in the day, because it's just like we're still in our fucking 30s.
Yeah.
But it's just like, man, like it was different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was completely different. So I think COVID may have like expedited that a bit, because it was just like, oh, everybody's just at home and they're able to just digest the music in a faster manner. But I think that was coming anyway.
Yeah.
Just because of the day and age we're in. It's a microwave generation. Like, people aren't slow cooking shit. It's like, get this shit done. You got 15 songs, you got 20 songs. Let's figure out which ones we putting out and let's go.
Yeah.
You got to get on the road now because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
The money's not in streaming, you know?
Yeah.
The money is getting out there in front of fans and selling tickets and selling merch and doing brand deals and all the other things you have to do now to make yourself bigger. You know what I mean? Like, like even if you look at it, like, you know, of course everybody went on tour back in the day, but like Sade or Whitney Houston didn't have to do brand deals. It was like they did shit that they wanted to do. Nowadays, it's like if you don't have brand partnerships with people, it's just like, how are you even promoting your music?
Yeah.
Because it's like you got to be able to get out there. You got to be able to do other shit than just make music. Making music is like 20% of it now.
Yeah. Yeah, if that. That's
right.
I mean, that's huge though, man. So where are you at now? It's like Pulse's publisher, still working there.
Still publishing, back publishing. And I love being a publisher because, like I said, it goes hand in hand with what I naturally do in terms of managing producers and songwriters even now, because I do manage a writer now. But, yeah, I love it. I love being able, because the great thing about publishing is I don't have to worry about what artists are on my label.
Yeah.
You know, when you're A&Ring a label, like especially when I was at Dreamville, I was like, I'm worried about these 9 artists. Like, I'm still obviously doing things as a manager, but like I don't really care about what's going on at other labels.
Sure.
As a publisher, I have access to all of that. So I'm pitching records to Atlantic artists, to Warner artists, to Sony artists, to Universal artists. So it's just like, yeah, this is cool because I get to be involved and I get, you know, kind of the inside information on a lot of stuff before it starts happening, which always, like I said, it helps me in my actual, you know, personal business of managing producers. So I love it. And Pulse is a great company. They're the best indie publisher that you can be signed to. You know, we compete with every major that's out there.
Sure.
So I think it's dope. They've built a great ecosystem over there. Josh, Scott, and Ashley have done an amazing job.
Cool, man. Well, shit. I don't know if there's, I mean, I feel like, I'm sure there's probably a lot of stones left unturned, but I don't know how we're going to go back and find them.
Shit, I'm happy I didn't have a lot of J. Cole questions.
No, honestly, like that, you know, for me, this is really like the art of the podcast for me of this particular thing is to try to document somebody's life, you know? So it's really not like, I don't give a shit about personal
right.
untold J. Cole stories, you know, like to me this was epic because like your story is amazing.
Thank you.
You know, and I'm super happy we did this. I mean, you've always, to me, like I can see why you've had the success you've had because ever since I've known you, you've been the most fucking solid, like trying to throw me opportunities, like just genuinely looking out for me.
Yeah.
And I can imagine every person that's been through this conversation we just had has felt the same way, you know? So it's beautiful, man.
I mean, no, listen, I've always said, like, even starting as a manager, like, I just want to help people.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's as cliche as it is, especially because I worked at Dreamville, it's just like, I've had dreams and shit that I wanted to do and I was able to do them. So I want to help other people kind of like reach their dreams as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like the proof is in the pudding and I've done it. You know what I mean? Like I remember literally not even to go back, but like one of my biggest things when I was figuring out what I wanted to do and to be an A&R, I was such a G-Unit fan. And I just wanted to place one beat on a 50 Cent album. Just one. And I never got a record on an album, but I remember the day I got a call where Tony was like, yo, 50 rapped on this beat you sent over. He's going to put it out tonight. It's just like a mixtape record. And I was just like, oh, shit, I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was like that shit meant so much to me because that's all I wanted to do. Like, it was like, okay, bet I got a record with 50 now.
Yeah.
And it was dope because when I got to Universal, I was actually 50's product manager. So I got to spend time with him and hang out with him. I was Jim Jones's product manager. I got to spend time with him and hang out with him. I still fuck with Jim to this day. Like, he comes to LA and he'll hit me and be like, what are you doing? So I think shit like that to where it's just like, yo, this is shit I never, like, I imagined it.
Yeah.
I never thought it was actually going to happen or be possible. And then it happened. So, like, to be able to help somebody like Kaz, or to help somebody like Cardiac, or even down to one of my newest clients, this kid Little Rib, who's an amazing producer from Atlanta. And, you know, I helped him get a record that has a feature from Little Uzi on it. And he was just like, yo, that's literally all he wanted was a record with Little Uzi. First placement he gets is a record with Little Uzi. So it's just like, for me to be able to help people make those dreams happen and come true is amazing. And then I get to work with like amazing legends that I looked up to and was fans of for so long. And it's just like, man, this shit is really fucking amazing. You know, I think everybody knows the music industry can change your life, but it can change it in more ways than just like financially.
Totally.
So,
and honestly, I would argue that those ways that are not financial are actually the better ways that it changes your life.
Those are the more beneficial ways,
Yeah.
like the relationships that you can get with people,
Yeah.
and that you can foster that end up becoming sometimes lifelong relationships and friendships are amazing, and they're fucking invaluable and priceless, because it's just like, fuck, man, I can sit up and DM Drake and I'm going to get a fucking response.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not like the guys that have been there like, oh, listen to my music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Man, I'm just sitting there DMing him jokes.
Yeah.
So I think that shit is cool, to where it's just like you get to really become friends with, you know, with your peers. And it's not just like, oh, okay, I ran into this guy at a party.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you're doing this because you want to get a check, or, you know.
Right. It's just like, yo, this is just genuine, natural, organic shit. That just you just stumble across and just like, oh wow, now this is my friend.
Yeah. Oh shit, dude. Amazing run. And you're
Thank
what,
you.
36?
Ooh, I feel old. I feel old. I've been doing this for a minute.
Yeah. Oh, what? I mean, that basically puts you at 20 years, or just shy of 20 years,
Almost.
really. I mean, you
4
know.
more years.
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'll
I
be
mean,
there.
even still though, I feel like you started like from like, oh, I guess maybe you said like 20 with like the Boom Boom Room, so it's a little bit.
Well, yeah, I was 20 at the Boom Boom Room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you know, 16 years still is epic, man.
Yeah.
Epic.
Like I said, I tell people this all the time too. If you would have told me back in the day, like when I was 20 or 19 or 18, that all of these things that happened were going to happen, like you're going to go to college and meet this guy named Jermaine. He's going to get signed by Jay-Z. You're going to be the A&R for his label eventually. He's going to do all the amazing shit. He's like, I would have been like, get the fuck out of my face. You're smoking. Whatever you're smoking, actually, I need to smoke because that's some really good shit. And I'd have just been like, bro, get out of here. Like, you know, but it's amazing to look back and be like, man, we've really done all of this shit. And then we still have so much more to go if we want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of the amazing part. And I really look forward to the next 16 years and figuring it out. Like, I think over the past couple of years, I've been telling people, like, man, I don't know if I'm going to do this shit past 40. To be honest, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't doing this past 40.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm going to be stuck here doing it. I just know that I have to do it at a different level. You know what I mean? Like, I have to graduate into more better things and into bigger stuff now. Like I said, I had to literally last year rewrite my goal list to where it was just like, what do I want to do now? Because all the old shit I wanted to do, I've been blessed enough to do. Yeah, and I did a pretty decent job at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's amazing. And I mean, fuck, I think it's amazing to see how this place has grown. Like, I remember the first time coming here. You definitely don't remember the first time I came here because it was literally just to see a friend of mine named Chris Focus who was just doing some shit with you and I.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, where's this random ass studio next to the Grove? And then to end up working here for a year when the store was down here, to then, you know, everything that you've been doing now with Tay and doing shit with Mcneal, I think that's amazing, bro. So hats off to you too, bro, because you built this shit from the ground up, bro. Thank you, man.
That's been for me. I think that's been the rewriting the goals list has now been, okay, cool. I want to executive produce, co-executive produce with artists and producers, full projects.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I love being like a studio engineer and just kind of being like a for-hire studio and engineer and doing all the label and publishing company sessions, writing sessions were disappointing. Like, I love writing sessions because I love working with the actual talent of the writer, you know, like that to me is a special type of person and it's awesome to be involved with it. But as an engineer, if I record a song with somebody, typically it gets re-recorded somewhere else. So like I lose my fingerprints in any capacity, you know? So it was weird to think about like, how long do I really want to do this?
Right.
You know? And the sessions I did with major label clients were fun, you know, and it was cool to see that, but it's also like, I don't really have a lot of say in like how this is going to go, you know. At the very least, I may be able to give somebody a little coaching, a little, you know, hey man, try it this way, try this, say this differently. Like, but it's different now to be like, oh cool, we're doing like a full project, album or EP that I get to record, mix, and master as an engineer. I get to work as like a vocal producer. I get to be involved in these projects in like such a more in-depth way that's so much more fulfilling to me, that it's like, cool, this is that next you know,
now, I remember
stage.
It was funny, you always said that. You always said how this is what you're doing now was what you wanted to get to.
Yeah.
And to get people to trust you and to trust the space that you were building. And it's amazing. You did it, bro. So like, hats off to you.
Thank you, man. Well, shit, dude. I feel like this was probably the best episode so far.
Hey,
So
y'all got a fucking job to do now.
yeah, for real. I mean, this is going to be a hard one to top.
Dope.
Epic story, man.
Dope.
Epic life so far.
Shit, let's do this shit again in like 5-10 years and see what the fuck else I got on the table to talk about.
Absolutely will, man. We absolutely will.
Let's do it.
Epic.
Man, thank you, bro. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yep. I hope it recorded loud enough.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Okay.
My goal is I hope it recorded, period.
Right, like, oh, fuck, I never pressed 3.
Yeah, it's literally that for this to me.